They're down the Main Street, don't. Packet should be on there.
Trying to also gather this information, and they know about it. So they were wondering if during the time.
They know it had it yet.
There's work Thursday, Friday, if they can talk to you guys.
We have.
A couple of you from historic preservation, kind of understand a little what you're doing, and if there's anything that could be.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I didn't know when I to speak and be this intermediary, so I said I'd see if,
Sure.
but I don't know if maybe that's there. You could just come because of, their contract with the law commission.
He's not even been to the last two of the meetings, so I think he's really working on the grant right now.
That's what I mean, so they understand. So I don't know. I can answer for any questions.
Feel my alarm.
Oh, really?
What time of day you take your nap? And very well American. Yeah. I would go hard. Don't have.
Exactly.
Pastor Ricky, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
It's working. Okay, then we're good and you're ready to go? Okay. I will call the meeting to order, and we have invocation by Pastor Ricky at Crossroads Church online.
All right, thank you, everybody. Father God, we thank you today just for this beautiful weather in the month of February. I believe we hit over 70 degrees. Lord, we just thank you for your goodness, your kindness, your mercy on the eve of Ash Wednesday and this Lenten season. It's a time to reflect, maybe for our shortcomings, maybe to stop doing some things we want to stop doing and to start doing some things we want to do. Lord, I just ask your special spiritual blessing throughout this Lenten season as those that are participating in the festivities of Lent, and also onto the mayor, the city council, the administrator, everybody that is there under the sound of my voice, as the Bible says, to do things decent and in order. We understand sometimes hard decisions have to be made, but we pray that they will be in the best decisions made for the residents of Red Oak, the place that we call home, where we love to play, work, and to live. Thank you. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Good. You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Apologies.
Nobody on that.
Okay, I was waiting for Carrie to do a roll call. All right, are you ready for roll call?
Duffy,
Here.
Eastbrink,
Here.
Lester, here, Franks,
Here.
Bradley, here.
Okay, got the agenda in front of us. I would take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call.
Hebrink. Hebrink,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Franks,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cuffey.
Yes. And our department reports, park and pool, Adam. What would you like to share?
Yeah, I've submitted two things for the packet tonight. They're kind of the end of the year wrap up for the parks. It's gonna focus more on the parks, a little bit of the pool. So the two things I've got, I'll go over the first one of the completed items in 2025. I'll hit the highlights of them. A lot of them, every park, we've planted trees, we've taken trees out, we've mulched them, we've trimmed them, watered them. So I'll kind of hit some of the highlights that we've done in each of the parks. Kelly Park, removed an old damaged merry-go-round. That is out. That is getting replaced. We have the new equipment in-house. With the nicer weather, we'll probably get that installed sooner rather than later. So we'll get those going again. So there'll be some new equipment on at Kelly Park. Worked with the Montgomery YMCA and donated a shed for soccer supplies. Put up a chain link fence around the soccer fields to keep cars off of that area. Had a little bit of problems with cars going out into that grassy area, kind of tearing it up a little bit with the fence and the chain going across there. It's helped keep people off of there in the meantime, so it's good. College Park put up a new roof on the gazebo. That's shingles resheeted, and then the very top was got fixed at the same time. Stained the gazebo, worked on drainage and erosion on the problems. So on that north side, there has been water that's come off that street a little bit. It's come down that. With help of the cemetery, they put in a drain. It kind of alleviates that issue, alleviates that erosion off that issue, off that corner there. Dog park, citizens helped fill holes in the dog park. We hauled out soil for them. We had a citizen call and ask if we do that. So while they're out there, they can fill in holes as they see need fit. We'll probably do that again this year with some of the issues we have out there as far as water and that sort of thing. Big Wilson planted 7 new trees out there. And then right underneath that, put up wire protectors around the trees to prevent deer damage. Big Wilson is one of the parks that we have the most problems with as far as deer. Just where it's located, there's not a lot of vehicles. Usage is a lot of walkers, but in that area, there's a lot of deer that come out there and that do tend to tear apart our trees a little bit. So wire cages tend to help with that. Chautauqua Park, the big project out there this year is the JVA is working on redoing that field. New infield mix, new dugouts, some new fencing and screening for that area. They're currently in the middle of that project. I think the last update we had gotten there, one of the pads is poured for the dugout. They're hoping to get the next one poured here shortly, so that way they're ready to go for this year for baseball season. One of the projects we did up in the bathrooms, we had always had some sort of issue with the windows in the bathrooms up there. We've had plexiglass that's gotten kicked out over the years or punched out or thrown rocks thrown through it. We had wire fabric put up on the windows. It seemed to help a little bit more. Still lets air in, still lets light in, keeps, the birds and stuff out. So it's been working pretty good so far. We did have some repairs to the pavilion for the shingles through a storm. Sports complex, the disc golf baskets this year, we had those all taken out to red oak fabrication, and those were all repowder coated red. They're a little bit brighter. They look really nice. We've had a lot of compliments on them so far this year. Fixed and repaired some of the chain link fence out of the diamonds, just wear and tear from balls hitting it, just general use of that sort of thing with the fence out there. We do have a water line out there that we need to be fixed to the bathrooms. Or to the building itself. It doesn't affect the bathrooms, it affects the hydrants that are all around the baseball field. Not a big problem, we'll get that fixed hopefully this spring. Moving on, Eggert Park painted some playground equipment. That was stuff that needed to be done. Kind of really one of those things that's too big to powder coat that merry-go-round. We've done a merry-go-round a little bit smaller in size that's worked out okay, but the one up there is a little bit bigger. New roof on the shelter up there and stained the shelter. Dutton Park, replace some rotting timbers around the playground area. So majority of our playgrounds are sand with treated 8x8 timbers that go around them. The last few years, we've noticed more and more a little bit of rotting of those timbers, so we replace those as needed, as we see fit. Little Wilson Park, stained the shelter, new roofing at Little Wilson. So we had 3 roofing projects this year in the parks with our smaller shelters, and then got those stained at the same time. Legion Park, another big project there was at the large shelter painted this year. We had Sweet Life painting out of Glenwood and Council Bluffs come. Super great company to work for. They did a really good job. It looks really nice. In a few years, we do have some of those timbers underneath that will need to be replaced over the time. We'll have to start looking for timbers for those. And then we had some electrical outlets fixed there as well. And then on the square, planted flowers and the concrete planters on the inside of the square. We do have volunteers that water those for us. Civic is one of them that has helped out graciously. Former Councilman Bills has helped out. So we do appreciate the volunteers helping us out in that aspect. We did have some repairs of the fountain several times this year. We did have to go down for a little bit. I do have a quote that just came in last week for a new pump and filter for that. So we'll start digging that in a little bit and see if that's into the budget, if we can work that out. And then moving on, and the last part for the park is the pool. So we do have the drain fixed in the concession stand. We had Rogers come out and snake that, get that fixed, back opened up. We did have a company come in and look at the liner that we had issues with. We do have a plan to get that fixed this spring. We do have new fall mats going in for the family slides. Those are same thing, will go in the spring. They're a little bit bigger and we'll rearrange them a little bit. So we'll hopefully get a little more life out of those than what we've gotten recently. And then we instituted this year a new point of sale system, which has been very beneficial for the pool. Normally it's been cash check only. Now it's credit card. I don't know if we do Apple Pay. If we can do Apple Pay. So it's a new for us. It's a new world out there for us to have that sort of ability to do that sort of thing. And people have really enjoyed having it out there to use. So and then moving on to the tree report. So I'll hit on the things that it goes over the last 12 years as far as what we've done in the park for the trees, but I'll hit kind of the things we've done in the last year. So in the last year, we've planted 29 new trees on the park trail and in the cemetery. Bill Dre has looked at over 60 trees for the citizens of Red Oak in the city of Red Oak. I'm sorry, and the trees were all street trees that he had looked at. Bill answered over 50 questions concerning trees from the citizens of Red Oak. The year before, we had planted 29 trees. Each year we apply for the Trees Please grant through Mid-America, which is a $1,000 matching grant. We've done that for a number of years. We've done it as long as I've been here with the city, which is about 16 years. We received an Arbor Day grant when we lost all of our dead ash trees. Those trees were worth well over $20,000, and the 80 trees we received went out to some of the citizens to replace some of our street trees and some of the trees we've lost in the parks. Each year we water all the new trees every week until the frost sets in, as well as mulching them. So each fall, we try to do in the fall, gives us a little bit of life over the winter time when we have moisture. Like this year, we're a little on the short side of the moisture, but we'll start in the fall planting, and then we'll water those through that first hard frost. Each May and June, we spray the spruce trees with a fungicide to keep those going. Then we mulch the newer trees for around 5 years after planting. That keeps it watered a little bit, keeps a little moisture at the base of them. And then we've used some lost money to help pay for some of the trees we have lost over the years. So, all I got. Any questions?
Oh, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very much.
Okay, nothing on proclamation of special notices, public comments? Nope. Okay. Next is the consent agenda. We've got the approval minutes, some liquor renewal licenses, and the claims and cash allocation report. Any questions on those items? Take a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Lester,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cuffey,
Yes.
Hebrink.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have the Historic Preservation Committee Annual Report Presentation. Cease. Welcome.
Okay, for those of you who do not know me, I'm Cease Locke, and I am representing the Historic Preservation Commission. And we have two members also here this evening, Jim Huskinson and Steve Adams are also here. I'll be presenting the annual report. You should have a copy of that in your packet, the board packet. Basically, it's what we've been doing in 2025. Red Oak is a CLG community, and CLG stands for Certified Local Government. What that means is that the city is certified by the State Historic Preservation Office. And we can nominate properties for listed in the National Register of Historic Places. In addition, it makes the city eligible to apply for grants to support preservation efforts. In order to maintain that CLG certification, we need to do several things. One of them, we need to meet at least 3 times a year. And in 2025, we had 9 meetings. Secondly, we must have participate in some type of state-approved training. And I was able to attend the Preserve Iowa Summit at Muscatine in June. And finally is that we need to submit an annual report each year, and that needs to be presented at the city council meeting. Some of the highlights that the historic preservation has accomplished is, first of all, we received a 2025 CLG grant. That is to conduct intensive survey and evaluation of the East Hill neighborhood in Red Oak, creating a historic district. Throughout the year, the commission members conducted research on the history of the properties and the owners, as well as photographing the houses. We located some historical photos, Sanborn maps, as well as news clippings documenting the history of each house. All of this to be included on Iowa site inventory forms that are turned into the state office in this coming summer when we're done. The Historic Preservation Commission established a Facebook page for the purpose of educating the public on some of the findings for our grant, such as the history, the year the house was built, the original owners, the style of the house, and also to inform the public on other things that the commission is doing. On October 26th, we conducted a public meeting and sent a flyer out to homeowners that were in the survey area for the grant. So we wanted to explain what the grant was and how it might affect homeowners. We publicized the event, sent out the invitation. One of the members did a live radio interview to explain the meeting and purpose. The meeting was well attended. We had about 40 homeowners there. That evening, that afternoon, I guess it was a 4 o'clock meeting, we also handed out the Accolades Awards, and that is to recognize building owners for their adaptive reuse of a couple of the historic buildings in downtown Red Oak. Derek O'Neill accepted an award on behalf of Root Development for the Ellie Pointer Macchietto architecture and the J. Mercantile buildings. Shelley Thornton accepted an award on behalf of Builders Development Corporation for the work done on the former middle school, now the 1917 lofts. These awards were also announced in the Red Oak Express and listed on our Facebook page. We were successful in obtaining a sign from Network to Freedom, thanks to Jim Huskinson, for the W.W. Merritt grave site at Evergreen Cemetery. He was an operative in the Underground Railroad. The sign was installed by his gravestone, and it was donated by that organization. Do you have anything else you want to say about that? The Red Oak Historic Preservation Commission was able to purchase 2 signs to designate our own Bluegrass Road on the east side of Red Oak and recognize it for being part of that original historic road. This was a 300-mile model dirt road that went from Council Bluffs to Burlington, Iowa, through what was referred to at that time as the Bluegrass Belt of Iowa, which was southwest Iowa. There were maps created and they designated hotels and cafes and car garages all along the way in all of the towns. Some farmers' houses were also on the maps. The Red Oak Historic Preservation Commission assisted Questers group for their annual cemetery walk during Junction Days. We assisted with some of the research on some of the historic figures that were presented, such as Buckskin Tracy, Lloyd Ross, and Dr. John Hatton. And finally, the Red Oak Historic Preservation Commission revised our work plan for 2026. That is also part of the annual report, and I'll summarize that for you. And of course, one of our goals for 2026 is to complete that East Hill Historic District grant by the required deadline this summer and submit all the required reports. We want to meet the CLG requirements, such as meeting quarterly, updating our list of historic properties in Red Oak, as well as planning for someone to attend the Preserve Iowa Summit in Ankeny in June. We want to continue the Historic Preservation Commission Facebook page, which has been pretty successful. We have 505 followers the last time we checked. Also, we want to continue the Accolades Award program to encourage and reward preservation efforts in the community. We want to continue our partnership with some of the other organizations in the community promoting the history of Red Oak and preservation efforts, such as the Questers, the library, the History Center, and the Chamber of Commerce. We want to assist the Chamber in promoting the Heritage Hill Tour, not only as an educational tool, but also drawing people to come and visit through the historic tourism. We want to safeguard Red Oak's historic and cultural heritage by promoting the Downtown Historic District and reviewing the downtown design guidelines. We want to look at completing the downtown plaque project and helping to identify those historic buildings. Are there any questions?
Very nice.
Yeah. Thank you very much
Thank
for all you do.
You've done a great job.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so next we do have a resolution to accept the annual report and their 2026 work plan.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Prince,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Hubbie,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Okay, next we do have a resolution for civil action lawsuit filing for Randall Cooper for payment for hay taken from 2021 to 2025 in the amount of $17,268.69. If you want to just kind of recap, although I think everybody's been briefed on this.
So after some of the things that happened out at the airport this summer, I started looking into, we were having conversations about who would be allowed at the airport. And based on that, I became aware of the fact that while hay is being sold by the farmer, Lee Kingsolver, and Randy Cooper, we were never ever reimbursed in the city. I went back 5 years to confirm that we were never reimbursed for any of the hay that was sold out there. Attorney O'Hearn and I both approached Mr. Cooper and tried to negotiate with him, indicated to him that the $17,000 was the amount that we had determined. We determined that based on the number of bales that were taken from acreage right, adjoining that land, so however many acres Lee Kingsolver had and how many bales we were paid for those number of acres. We then extrapolated and deducted the number of bales that should have been able to come from the number of acres that Mr. Cooper took hay from. We had conversations with him. He presented us with some receipts for expenses. We did offer to decrease the amount by $2,500 for his seed expenses because we do pay for the seed for Mr. Kingsolver. He indicated at that time that he was not willing to pay the city. And so our recommendation for the council is to proceed with a civil action lawsuit that the court would then make a determination as to whether or not he is going to reimburse the city. In other words, the taxpayers. As an airport commissioner, you would not have special privileges to be able to sell hay that other people didn't sell. And so I think that the rightful amount of money to replenish the taxpayers' revenue that would have been received if Mr. Kingsolver was selling the hay would be this $17,268.69. So the recommendation by myself and our city attorney is to approve resolution 2026-15, which would allow Attorney O'Hearn to file the civil action lawsuit against Mr. Cooper.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, did the city, did they have a contract with Randy in writing saying he had to pay for that? The city?
No.
Then
There was
how can you
nothing.
Sue him if they don't have anything written down for it then?
Because that's the point. You can't go and take hay off city property. You didn't have an agreement to do
I
that.
guess he was supposed to pay the city so much money for that hay that he was using off of that property then.
My understanding is that the commission did not understand that he was selling it. People thought that Lee was selling it. So he never had permission to sell.
The city lawyer thinks they have a case that they don't have a contract saying he had to do it.
Yeah, because that would be saying if anybody doesn't have a contract, they can just go take hay from the city. No one else can take it either.
Did we have somebody contracted out that was,
We had an agreement, informal, like it wasn't in writing either in the last few years with Lee. But Lee understood that that within a few days of selling the hay, he was obligated to come in and pay $30. I went back in all of the airport commission minutes. There was never any approval for anybody in terms of Mr. Cooper to be able to sell that hay. If you talk to the commissioners, Terry can attest to that. They would have thought that they were sending Randy out to talk to Mr. Kingsolver. Nobody understood that Randy was then going and taking the hay and selling it on his own and keeping the money.
So Mr. Kingsolver has been regularly bringing in a check for his portion of and was Randy notifying him of the hay that he was taking?
He would just go to Mr. Kingsolver and say, I'll take this piece now, you don't have to do this much. I'll now take this piece, you don't have to do that much.
Okay.
And Mr. Kingsolver did indicate that he said, isn't this a conflict of interest? But he never brought it to anybody else's because he was afraid that he then wouldn't even get to hay what he had, so.
How much did he have to pay the city for this hay? I mean,
Lee?
did he had to pay the city so much before he could sell the hay someplace else?
No, he would do that, he would bring us the seed bills. He would then plant it, work it, do all the labor. And then he would come in within 3 days of selling the hay and pay us $30 a bale. And he would,
$30 a bale.
he would self-report, I sold 100 bales times $30 is $3,000.
Yeah, and then that's since 21 then.
Yeah.
So was he putting the
Right.
seed on the part that Randy took the hay off of also? Was he seeding that?
Each year, Randy would come to him and say, I'm gonna take more now and you can have less.
So Randy did the seeding also?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is why we said, if he brought in receipts, because we paid Lee's seed, we would also discount the amount based on receipts. He doesn't have any exclusive receipts from the airport.
And it was never brought up in the minutes at all?
No, there's nothing in the minutes that gave Randy permission to take the hay.
So the lawyer said it was all right then, because whoever our lawyer is, said that they thought they had a case then.
You can't take hay from the city land and not reimburse the city. That's correct.
So if they don't have a contract saying they did it about it, I guess I don't understand how they can do it, something like that. I'm not a lawyer.
That's the point. No one knew that that was happening.
Is the airport commission moving forward to getting contracts out and having this all squared away where we don't run into any more problems like this?
So if you remember with the protocol that's normal in the ag business, if you didn't notify someone by September, then you can't switch it. And so we will have informal agreement with everybody. So that's Tony Johnson does the cropping and Lee does the hay, and that'll be on their next agenda. But it won't be, you can't bid it out now. So you have to give it to the people that have it now. So Lee would be given all of the hay to be able to hay whatever land. And we're talking between Tony and Lee about which land is best to do for hay and which is best to do for crops. The crop, you just pay it per acre. You get somewhere around $150 per acre. And then based on the bales, you give us so much per bale. Although the cost of hay, the price of hay is going down. And so Lee has asked if there could be a reduction for future years in the amount that he pays. And so we'll have that before the airport commission. Their meeting is late this month. It's not for 2 more weeks.
Was the airport commission under the assumption that Lee was, baling all of the hay, or did they know that Randy was also baling hay?
I've asked the commissioners, did anyone give permission to Randy to sell the hay and that he could personally keep the money? The answer was no. Did you understand that he was selling it and keeping the money? No. And Terry's been on for the last few years, so you can attest that as a commissioner, you did not think that Randy was personally selling the hay for his profit. So the goal was to try and negotiate with Mr. Cooper without litigation, but he won't pay, so. I think there needs to be a clear message that we don't allow things like that to happen, so that's why we're recommending proceeding.
Any other discussion?
Who made the motion?
No one's made a motion yet.
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay,
Second it.
okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Franks,
No,
Bradley,
Yes.
Hubbie,
Same.
Ekrick,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Rita.
Okay.
1-1. So it passes.
All right. Next, back on the agenda is the resolution to advertise for sale for this has changed a little bit, the east half of 401 North 4th Street to accept bids. So we had essentially just put this off until this meeting to make sure there was notice given to all of the landlords that own the buildings on that street that it would be affecting. I believe that was completed. I know I see Mark and Ann here that, and I know conversations have happened there as well. Anything you want to follow up on that, except for now it's a different section of the.
Right, I think some of the adjustment from the north side to the east side was in response to Derek, myself meeting with Mark and Ann. They have an easier time unloading furniture at the back of their furniture store by the trucks coming in from Washington on a north-south direction. And so then by not having the east-west garages that would block the entire northbound, that then would allow them to approach the building, a truck to approach the building on the west side, currently where the dumpsters are. And so again, we would, make sure that everybody's aware of it. There could be other people. We can certainly, if we advertise for this, if approved tonight, we can make sure that all the property owners are also aware that they can put in a bid themselves if they have a different idea. It was important to Derek that this really wasn't about just his proposal, because, the true spirit of it is that anybody can put in a proposal for what they want to do. But the truth is, that was the person that was looking to do that. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for Mark and Ann. They agreed to come and be able to speak to, they were glad to be able to have an opportunity to learn about it and have some input that then, like we said, kind of shifted the east-west north half to a north-south eastern half of it.
I would like to hear their response.
Just talk about the tenants. We'll do it in two parts. I'll get the business part. Business part was, when we met with Lisa and Derek in his office to go over this. We had already expressed with Derek prior to that meeting that our concern was that semis, there's no way you can drive a semi in the alleys behind those buildings, behind your building that we sold to you and then beside, behind our buildings. You can't do it. So the way we have offloaded our furniture, they pull up on Washington Street and then they back their semi back up in there. And of course, it's wide open. There's a few tenants of our building that park along that north side by the alley. But if we're gonna have a truck come in, we just ask them to move and they just split it up, because we only need about 10 feet width and the drivers can back right in there, and then we can just offload off the back of the semi, take it in our back room, and it works really, really well. If we're trying to haul furniture off of Fourth Street down the alley, that's probably not gonna work real well. Our folks, our employees and the driver aren't gonna like that situation. So we made that very clear to Derek, and he was very good to redesign his proposal. And he presented that at the meeting with Lisa and I and it looked, we were very excited, very pleased with his correction on what he was proposing to do. So now I'm gonna let Ann talk as far as our tenants and other tenants for the nicer apartments that are developing now.
Well, I think it's important that we encourage downtown residential living, and of course, Derek and Root Development have been doing a lot of nice things, and that's one of the reasons why they wanted to have the garages as an option for those people. Other folks that just want to have a nice place to park off the square. It sounds like there'll still be some room for parking in the parking lot, and then of course, the city has a nice lot to the east there. There'll be parking along the Fourth Street, so I think there's gonna be plenty of parking for tenants. But the garages are, of course, a new thing, and I think it would be a nice addition for the upscale apartments that they'll be putting in. That's what I know.
There's also between like there would be two sets of four with a little walkway in the middle, so
Yes.
even the fact that the east part is kind of covered with the garages, if that were to go ahead, there is a place in the middle, so you don't have to go all the way from the south to the north to go around the garages. There'll be a sidewalk width between two sets of four.
How about the rest of the parking lot and
Yeah,
pretty
recycling
bad?
for- The recycling for it, is it, or no matter all where we're at?
No,
No,
you're
I
right.
just think the rest of the parking lot, it needs to be
It's a mess.
redone, it's
The-
a mess, and for me to put nice buildings up, I mean, I hate to see it just the rest of it.
We did discuss, I think we have to see what happens, but there could be a conversation with the city owning the west half to look at resurfacing it and maybe
Yeah.
some of the cost. Whatever kind of money that we get from the sale, that perhaps we can reinvest that money back in the parking.
And the,
When are the bins going?
What?
When are the recycling bins moving?
I got the banner, I had a like 6-foot banner made at Van Brands. And it is now ready, so I just need to go grab it, and then Clint and the crews can put the sign up, and then we can have Town and Country move them.
Okay.
The camera, we were waiting for the cameras there, sorry,
So the entrance is from the street or from the inside of the park,
inside.
inside? So really, that should be redone before they're built.
I would say after, because of the
Yeah.
construction.
Yeah.
A lot of construction.
They're big moving in, but the part that we're proposing to sell, that's the roughest part. That's the worst part. It is.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It
it
is.
truly is.
And he'll have if it were to proceed for his proposal, he would put concrete in front of the bays. And then
He
we'd
should.
probably put asphalt on the other
Yeah.
side.
So how many of the building owners were okay with doing this besides Mark and
Nobody was opposed.
nobody was opposed to it?
And again, once we get if you approve this, then I will send them, if you're interested in submitting a bid, you can do so as well. So I would recommend,
We're just putting them up for bid.
and then you still get to decide at
Then we
another
still get to
time
decide, yes,
what it looks
the
like.
purpose could be for also.
and there would be a public hearing as well.
Yes.
So this is approving a advertisement, an ad would go in the paper, we would accept bids, then we come back to the council, discuss what was submitted. If it's only the one, you can decide. If there's more than one, you can look at that. And then the council would recommend or recommend none, but if you recommend one, then we have to put another ad in the paper saying we're recommending X project, and then there's a public hearing.
Because right now, we don't know what could be built there. We have no clue. We're just selling the land.
You're willing to accept bids is what you're deciding
Yeah.
today.
And that's part of that facility. That's the worst, and I'd like to get rid of it. So if somebody can develop it, that'd be great.
And there would still, I think, when we looked at what would fit, there'd still be 10 to 12 parking stalls on the west side. So it's not as if there's not parking for whether it's businesses in the area or residents.
Mark?
And those, just to clarify, those 12 parking stalls she mentioned along the west side would not interfere with people trying to get into the garages, nor would it interfere with backing up semi up the middle of that whole thing.
If they get developed, we're just saying if they get developed in the garage, that's,
If they
yeah, that's it. We're just selling the land right now.
Exactly, but if it did take place, and if you did put those 12 parking places on the west side and the buildings or whatever on the east side, it would not interfere with backing a semi or deliveries there. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Okay, anything else on that? Questions from the council? Okay, hearing none, if someone would like to make a motion to approve,
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second it.
okay. Once again, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Bradley,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
Eastring,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
France.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark and Ann, for being here as well. Next we have on the agenda, request for a handicap parking spot, Second to Washington. This is for the McAlpin Event Center. As it was listed here, there's continuing of trying to figure out where all those spaces actually are supposed to be.
So we have a list of where the ones were approved previously by the council. We're trying to keep it as one full list instead of just adding. Trevor and Caitlin McAlpin had called last week and asked, and so I explained that at the recommendation of staff, it does have to get approved by the council, and then the staff, when weather permits, with warm enough asphalt and air temperatures that we can paint those. We would also paint other parking stalls similar to what we had done over at the firehouse. They had requested that, of course.
Or was this just for one spot or is this for two?
One handicap
One
spot and then the
handicap
rest
spot.
would be regular parking.
We're like in front of your building? like right in front?
There is in front of our building, basically in the south end of our building,
Okay,
just the south end.
On
And then
Washington.
that- On Washington,
okay.
and then that would help. Apria's parking, we don't have a lot of
Right.
weekday traffic, but we have a lot of weekend traffic. And it just gets really congested and some people park at an angle, some people park straight. On the other side of the street, there's a sign that says diagonal parking only, but it's faded and it's just hard. And we've had several requests for a defined handicap spot, and that would also help Apria Healthcare. When people go in there, they have a lot of need for that also.
Thank you.
There's a map on page 61 kind of indicating where it would be. But then we would, yes,
Be on the
paint.
south end then, right?
Yes,
Find them,
the south.
yeah. Okay.
South side of their building, north
Of
side
our,
of the
yeah,
road.
correct.
Yes.
Which is lots on the other side, it is.
The event period, that's where you can.
Yes, it is.
So we would recommend approval now.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll second this, not a problem.
All right, any further discussion, questions? Roll call, please.
Duffy,
Yes.
Eastring,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
France,
Yes.
Bradley.
Yes.
Now we have some internal fund transfers, fiscal year 26. You want to touch on those?
Page 63 of your packet lists those. These are all planned through the budget, but even though it's approved in the budget, we would have council approval. So there is water and wastewater funds that go towards debt. Those were actually supposed to be done in previous years, but somewhere in the debt planning, those were never done. So those would go towards debt payments. And then sales tax money to the general fund, franchise fees to the general fund. Water and sewer each pay what's called a payment in lieu of taxes. Those were each 40,000. Wastewater has a second amount there for debt. That's their actual debt payment. The Historical Commission, Preservation Commission receives $5,000, and that's a separate fund. So we give $5,000 from the general fund. Stormwater, there's some costs of stormwater that goes into the general fund. The stormwater fund pays for the street sweeper payment. That's what goes to RUT, and that payment gets taken out of the road use tax money. And the ARPA money that we had, the Eastern Avenue project had a shortfall of $24,000. And when we had approved all of the ARPA money at our last time that we had to address that last December, full year ago, Eastern Avenue was supposed to be made whole with ARPA money. And so to make that fund whole, we need that $24,000. So those are, again, based on what was approved a year ago at budget time.
Any questions? If none, take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Sebring,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Franks,
Yes.
Bradley, Duffy.
Yes.
Next, we've got a resolution for administrative fees for the set-off program.
So we are allowed to petition the state to have a administrative fee for the effort of putting those debts that people owe us. I think I explained to you at the last meeting that we have probably close to 700 different debts owed to the city, ranging from the least amount that you can put on is $50. There's some that are thousands of dollars. And there is a fee that gets taken off from the state of $7. So the first $7 of this really is a wash. And then it would basically be saying that there's $13 for the city's efforts to be able to research it, put it on there, send it, keep track of it. Just to kind of put it in perspective, like I said, we put approximately $320,000 on there about 2 weeks ago. We've received $4,400 in hits. So you get notified if somebody files taxes and that there is a link to some debt that we have and somebody that's filed taxes and is looking for a refund. There was actually a post on Facebook this morning criticizing us. The post seems to be deleted now, but just to kind of give you a perspective on how this went. The person called and said that they had never lived in the city of Red Oak since they were a child. And then it turned into that they thought that their ex-husband had scandalously put something in their name. They then said that, they didn't think that it was their bill. So I tried to ask some questions. They were pretty upset. After going down into the basement, and she said somebody must have stolen my social security number. We don't put things in people's names without a picture ID, without a social security number. She said that she's never lived here. And this was only in 2019, so it wasn't, 20 years ago, although there is some debt from that long ago. We were able to produce a deposit payment of $75 cash, an application, a driver's license, and a social security number. So I don't know how we would have gotten that if the person didn't come in there. Like I said, the post is down. It was a mobile home out at, the mobile home park that owed us $900. And so I think probably their entire tax return is being scooped up, but you get those kind of posts on there where people said that, I never lived here and they're trying to take my money.
I'm still stunned at the amount of money that we turned in.
It's unfortunate, but it's nice we're getting it taken care of now
Yeah,
and moving forward,
How
so.
far back did you go?
Utility as far as we could, there's some from 2006.
Wow.
Ambulance, we put 4 years on so far.
So what's been done in the past to collect?
Well, so there was efforts being made in the past, but in 2023, the set-off program eliminated their old program and went to a new program. And it was not easy. I remember that I was in Cascade when it happened. And we were one of the first cities at that time when I was in Cascade to try and get on there. And so everything got wiped off. So then you had to put stuff back on. So we were using the set-off program before. I just think that it wasn't as assertive. And so there's bad debt. Like there was some stuff that was in G-Works, our old software program, that was called bad debt, and it just sort of went into this black hole. But it's interesting because like I said, you know, people accuse us of things. There was a gentleman that came in and said he didn't want his taxes to be taken, so he paid us, I think it was almost $200. We had somebody call that had a 2016 bill for $300. You know, they didn't refute it. I think people are surprised because it's old. Minus this case today, but again, we didn't clearly get a copy of a driver's license. And I did send all the information. The lady called 8 times today, very upset. After I sent her all the evidence, I have not heard from her. So you know, you probably will get some calls that people are frustrated with us, but these are monies owed to the city. I will not be placing anything in the budget for any of these revenues. You know, it'll really just be whatever we collect is that much more revenue going in, but we're not gonna balance any budget or count on any amount of money. But it was good timing. You know, I had asked Carrie to prioritize trying to get that done just because we got it in there before W-2s were due to people, and I'm sure that these next 3 months will be the prime time to be able to collect off of income taxes. So this is a $20 thing. In order to be able to submit it to the state, we have to show that the council has this as an approved debt. We're not exactly positive. They were a little bit wishy-washy in our conversations with them. So we're gonna, if the council's willing to go with this $20, that helps us to not lose the $7 that they're taking in a small nominal amount of money for the efforts of putting it on there. And if the council is willing to do that, then we'll submit it to the state and see if they approve it. So my recommendation is to approve resolution 2026-13, please.
Motion to approve the resolution 2026-13, administrative fees for the setup program.
I will second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Bradley,
Yes.
Duffy,
Yes.
Hebrink,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
Next, our new 2026 EMS fees for service. So these are just increasing the fees from previous years. I don't know when the last time it was before this that it was done.
We did it a year
It
ago.
was more than a year ago. Okay.
So we always work with PCC. They look at Iowa averages and then they look at national averages for EMS fees. And so this is making sure that we are not leaving anything on the table. Medicare does pay less than this, but of course, if you have a higher fee, you know, a lot of the private insurances will pay the higher amount. And Medicare, you get what you get.
So how many instances of, failing to apply for a permit have we had?
Oh, we're on EMS.
This is for the
We're on
EMS fees.
Sorry, I got the wrong.
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
That's the next one.
The EMS, sorry.
Next one.
That's the next.
So our recommendation is to try and keep up with, you know, there's the cost of living increases, making sure that, like I said, that we're not below anything for reimbursables.
So the meeting the other night,
So we had another meeting with our surrounding communities. I wouldn't call it successful in terms of anybody agreeing. We've sort of heard on the side that when people are talking about it at their meetings in other communities, that they understand that there may be something that they have to pay. They requested a few adjustments to the total amount of the budget. For example, my opinion would be that the paramedic / firefighters, which for us, everybody's combined, you know, we don't have separate people. that the wages are 100% available to everybody. They said that they thought we should take off some of the wages because they respond to fire calls. Our fire calls are 10%, so. You know, as we negotiate, I feel like I will submit 10% less on the wages just for the sake of showing that we're trying to make an effort to work with people. I think they asked about the utility bill for the building, saying again that it shouldn't all be charged to them as a part of their helping pay 10% of the cost, so we'll take something off since I guess technically we are heating some of the bays for the fire trucks. So we'll decrease that, then I'm gonna send it back out. And then my plan is to say, if you'd like to have individual meetings, we're not gonna have any joint meetings anymore, because it was a little bit hostile. You know, people again are looking at us like, why are you charging us? And I think as Tim representing all of you at the meeting, kind of have to say back, why are Red Oak taxpayers expected to pay for ambulances that go to communities that are not paying? And so
Yeah, I was just wondering, because that first meeting, nobody said hardly anything.
it was pretty similar.
Yeah. I think one-on-one will
So you
make
did
better
present
progress.
with the cost, so.
So we gave them, I think I had given that to you last time here when we were here at our special meeting. But looking at it, it was before, if I make another adjustment, if I take off like 10% of the wages, whatever, you know, it's not gonna make a huge difference, but
Yeah.
the amounts that we presented to them on the high end was Velisca at $52,000. Stanton was 36, Elliott was just under 9,000, Emerson was 19,000, and then Grant at the lowest was $1,840.
I think people have to understand that we have been operating in a lot.
Well, it's not a loss, it's that the taxpayers have to make up the difference between the cost of the services, right? Well, and the problem is that they think that we're trying to balance our budget with their money. And I made it very clear to them that in my proposal in this budget, I have accounted for $0 from them. Because again, I would argue that we have to make sure that we can pay for these things with our own money. And then if we are getting money from them, that should be to assist, you know, going like we would plan next year for what we got this year, but we're not going to budget for that until we have 2080 agreements or we start invoicing them. And so, you know, a few of them, again, when it was a little bit hostile, said, well, it looks to me like you have a budget shortfall and you're just trying to budget from us to fix it. And I said, no, I have not presented a budget with any dollars from you. It's about what's right. And that it isn't Red Oak taxpayers' responsibility to supply ambulances. And I said, you know, if there was another department that you could provide services, you know, if we said, can you just, we're not gonna mow our parks anymore. Can you bring lawnmowers over and mow our parks for us for free? You wouldn't do that. And so.
Are we overstaffed? Do we have too many people?
Not for the number of calls and if you wanna have people available.
But that other calls are from other cities that we're not getting anything out of, right?
Correct.
But if we were just doing our own, we would be, probably wouldn't need as many.
Not necessarily, because you still have to have somebody here.
You can't.
Well, that's the thing is,
Yeah.
sometimes we
You
get
can't
stuff
say.
transfers too.
Yeah, I
I mean,
don't think we're over
I don't
that.
think so either.
And actually, the point being, that shouldn't matter to what we should not be paying spread of taxpayer dollars to fund them. It doesn't matter how many people we have or we don't have. And the point that you're not making the budget balance by those dollars is great. I mean, it shows that.
Right, like it is
That's
not,
not what
it's
you're
not
trying to
about
do.
that. It's not about that. It's about what's right. And, you know,
Even Velisca has an agreement with the sheriff's department to pay for part of the wages for a sheriff, which is a county funded operation. This is all city funded, so
Yeah.
we're not out of line.
Is our dive team funded through, we're paying for that, for the taxes, or? They have very Red Oak.
we own a boat, if that's what you mean, like we have. Right, but in terms of fire is required by state code. Everybody has to belong to a fire department and pay somebody. So you have your townships around you that pay in. So we get $100,000 from the rural townships that are in our fire district. And then the other fire departments that we're talking about, for purposes of fire, you don't charge each other. You do mutual aid. So when a fire call comes in, if they need our ladder truck, we're there. We have the largest amount of equipment and we go. That's not something that you charge each other for, because you all have to have fire. You do not have to provide EMS. We could all choose to have no EMS in this county and everybody has to figure out their own way to get to the hospital via ambulance. Or if none of us had an EMS service, maybe a private service would come in, similar to what the hospital currently uses for transfers, a company called Pioneer. So the point is that we, the taxpayers of Red Oak, are paying for a high level of service. We choose that all of our people have to be trained at a paramedic level, so we can provide the highest level of care, cardiac care, IVs, various amounts of service that if you have EMS people at a basic level, so it's not only are they, in some cases, have nobody responding, some have an ambulance that if people are available in volunteer positions that they can come, but they don't have to provide that, and therefore we don't have to provide that. It's not our obligation to go to other communities, but it's not responsible of us to not be vetting this process and making it clear to these people before we were to make a shift. Nobody wants to stop coming because we have people available, which is why we've said, as a fairness to the taxpayers of Red Oak who are paying, you should be contributing to the cause of having full-time EMS available to you, that we get simultaneously paged. So as soon as there's a call in their communities, we get paged and we start going. If they then respond, we call off, we don't go. If it's higher level of care, we still go. And so at a $1.3 million operating budget, that's a pretty expensive proposition to the city of Red Oak taxpayers to be providing it to other communities. And the other thing, on top of just the fairness of money, is that when we leave and are in Villisca, the people who are paying in Red Oak are sometimes uncovered. We'll call out for a general alarm and oftentimes our full-time people will come in, but then we're paying overtime wages for them to sit and wait for another call. So not only are we leaving and spending money for that other community's call, but we're spending more money so that our people can still be covered. They asked, why is it coming up now? I said, because finally somebody was willing to bring it up.
Tried for a year to get this ball
Right.
rolling.
And it's not comfortable, you know,
No,
that's,
it's not.
so.
But just to be clear, this resolution tonight is not anything to do with the fees for the other communities. This is just for our billing.
This is what gets billed to the people who actually get.
Yeah.
Provided services.
Before we move on off that, what date are we looking at to,
For this,
for our conversations with the other towns?
July 1.
July 1?
In the original letter that went out in November for the December meeting, we said that it is your budget time. This is an appropriate time. We understand if we said before July 1 that you had not budgeted for it, but you can be budgeting now.
Okay.
For July 1.
Not the date.
These fees that are before you tonight would be effective March 1. So if you approve it tonight, we would give it to PCC tomorrow. And then they'll have a program for anybody that gets
New rates.
provided EMS service on.
Those fee, this is for fee for like, we go to somebody else's town, right?
No, this is for people who get picked up and what we actually bill their insurance, Medicare.
If it's in Montgomery County, then you're saying,
Anybody that gets picked up by our ambulance would get billed these fees. And the different levels are based on what you need. So if you need a basic level of care, you have a BLS charge, emergent or non-emergent. If you are a high level of care, like you have a cardiac incident, then that's considered advanced life support. And then you're at the higher level. So this is the actual bill. We pay PCC is a private company that our paramedics fill out a report that says, I picked up Lisa Cotter, this is why. This is the supplies that we use. This was the level of care that she needed. And then this is a Lisa Cotter bill.
if our ambulances transport them to Omaha,
They can, but they typically are obviously most of the time providing service and a transportation here. When the dispatch gets a call, they ask where your doctor is, and that's how they determine who responds and where you go. So if you doctor in Red Oak, they bring you to Red Oak. But most of the time, they come here first.
I was just gonna say, like, if it's cardiac arrest and they need a better hospital like Omaha, do we transport them to Omaha?
Sometimes if we have someone available, those are called transfers. If they first go to the hospital here, because typically you're gonna put them in a emergency room
Right.
setting, and then they are gonna decide if they need to get transferred. So that's considered a transfer. We used
So
to do,
Does the hospital have an ambulance service that goes to Omaha or?
that's Pioneer, but sometimes it's
Pioneer.
lately, they will call us and we will decide if we have someone available to go.
Okay.
Once in a while, we have a 4-person crew. And so 2 can go and still stay behind for 911 calls. So those are considered transfers. Emergency calls are when people are calling 911. So if you're transferring someone to Omaha, you don't want to leave unattended the community for a 911 call. So that's why MCMH used to pay us $50,000 up until a couple of years ago. And we did transfers, there were conversations that led to them choosing to go to Pioneer and hire them in most cases, but we do sometimes still transfer. So again, these are just for what we bill individuals who get picked up and provided service.
Okay, I would take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Cuppy,
Yes.
Sebring,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes,
Briggs,
Yes.
Bradley.
Yes.
Okay, next we have this would be the second of 3 readings for the ordinance doubling the building permit fees for those, the lack of receiving a permit prior to construction. So we did discuss this at our last meeting.
I got something to say on that too. I don't think you need to double permits on our citizens. I know, it just didn't seem right to me. I think you should find out first why they didn't do it. And then tell them to stop whatever they were doing and then say, you need to get a permit. I'm not for doing it twice. So that's my take on that.
Okay.
What's gonna stop them?
yeah, I.
What's gonna stop them? You say stop and they keep building.
Yeah.
Without a permit.
If there's no penalty for doing something the wrong way, then why should anybody do it the right way?
So I can go in and build a deck, stop.
Well, you,
Now go get my
Don't we-
permit
don't
and
we have-
then there's no
don't we
fee for it?
have authority to tell them to stop, that they can't
Yes.
do it? Or not,
We
But
do,
We
but
do, but do they stop?
huh?
Do they stop?
They're hoping, in my opinion, that they're not gonna get caught.
This is supposed to be a deterrent for those to not follow the rules.
and just like, so that you understand, like, it's serious consequences. This isn't just like move a fence. I had $1 million, just in my time here, $1 million house put in the wrong place. That's not that simple. To just say stop and redo it.
And did they stop, Lisa?
They
They
did,
stop-
but then
they
they
stop.
wanted to get a variance, and then I explained, and we did a lot of training with the Board of Adjustment, that this is not appropriate for a variance. So we went from having 10 variance meetings a year to none. Because I had to help them understand that they had to make serious changes. The one that just came up, why I brought this up, is a full-blown garage. It's not as simple, and so people think they can get away with it, and sometimes they know, sometimes they don't, but if there's no consequence, then it's just easier, there's no incentive to come and do it properly. And we have a lot on our plate to correct what's wrong, and so if the word gets out through contractors, like, it's just, there has to be, in my opinion, there has to be a consequence. And just to say you have a conversation with someone, and then how would you decide if someone was blatant or it was an accident? And you can't have a rule that says, I'm gonna judge subjectively whether you should be somebody that knows, because the person who put the $1 million house up is a contractor, a very reputable contractor. There's no reason. They don't not know, but they made a mistake. And so there has to be a consequence to that. people know, like, if you live in a city. I mean, again, I've done this for 30 years, but people know you have to have a building permit. And if it's a small,
Well, that too, you probably do, but how many of our building permits do they actually know what they need a building permit for?
Well, that's the reason they.
Huh?
that's why they're supposed to
that's why
call
they're
us.
supposed to
So,
get one.
so you're saying we should probably have more well-defined what you need a building permit for?
Well, okay, you have to have a building permit to put windows in a house. Why? It's not an addition to your house.
It's
Why?
because you could still put them in wrong. And also because we work collaboratively with the county. Who needs to know about things that change on a property, because there's no way for the county to know. So it's a collaborative effort between the city and the assessor's office, which what people do to their properties affects the bottom line for us, which is value.
Well, I'm gonna say, I think Red Oak does a lot more saying what they need permit for than what they actually really do. Have to have, you shouldn't have to have a permit to put a window in your house. You shouldn't have a permit to paint your house or put siding on it.
Painting is not, siding, yes. And again, the reason that we have inspections and we do that is so that people install it correctly. It's really a fee that you pay to us also to make sure that contractors do things according to code. To make sure that it's done
And
properly.
Swiftco's the one that is doing it.
Correct, and they are certified building inspectors, so they know the code, we've adopted the code, and if you don't have permits, then people, like, I can give you an example, one time. Someone didn't think they needed a permit, they put on a garage, depending on how.
Sorry, that's my,
Sugar.
no, it's fine. I gotta shut it off.
Didn't Aaron have that one? So we had somebody that came in and said, why should I have to give you, like, it's just a simple garage, and they were widening their garage. So sometimes it's zoning and setbacks, but the way that the code would allow is the wider that it was, if they didn't have,
I'm not talking about what adding on. I mean, I am talking about adding on. I'm talking about just the house itself. Do you have to have a permit to do your carpet in your house too?
No.
How come you have to have a permit to put a window in that's the same size that you got?
because they can be installed improperly. Carpet, yes, it just affects you, but
So is there structural integrity with windows?
yeah, cause I mean, you're, poking at the outside and.
Yeah.
If it was an egress window, for example, like, is that done properly? Is it code, things like that? It's to protect people
Right.
and property.
And, so roofs, roof replacements.
They do have a code that says you have to have a permit to put windows in your own house.
It says alter, update, I don't have the code in front of me, but yes.
Well,
But people call us, if it's painting, if it's carpet. Like, if you're being responsible as a homeowner, you call and ask, and if it's little projects like that, then we don't say
Did
anything.
it also tell you what the cost of that permit is for that?
The way that you currently have your set up,
Is it where you have owed $1,000? Is that how they go by the permit? How much it's gonna?
how much that you're spending is, and then it gets reduced if it's. There's a 30% reduction in the cost if it's like a remodel. So there's a fairly complicated equation. People come in, they give me the permit. I send it to SWIPCO. I work with them on making sure that it's compliant and approved. And then I contact them directly myself and say, your permit is approved. It's usually a 24-hour period. We don't delay projects if people come in. And then I let them know how much the permit is, and it works well.
see, I think there's where people's are having problems with this. In other communities, do they have like, hey, if we're gonna replace windows, it's gonna cost you this much. If you're gonna build on a garage of this size, it's gonna cost you this much.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's nothing definite.
Some communities have set fees, like they might just say it's $75 for something.
Yeah, and I mean,
I was gonna say,
I think
Clarinda's
they
got
need
a
to
really
revamp all the
good,
permits.
well-structured
Right.
building permit process.
And we're looking at changing that as a part of the recodification, but right now, like, I just don't think people understand how severe it is when people don't get a permit. Like, if you don't have a permit for a window, okay, the world's not coming to an end. But the things that are not being permitted are serious. Like, and then if we If we have to go after you, it's a lawsuit. Have we had lawsuits here because of where people have built things?
And
Yes.
people get permits and they don't realize they have to do it within a certain period of time.
Correct, and they have 2 years, which is generous. A lot of towns only have a year.
So if they get the permit in 10 years ago and they come back and build it and they think, well, we had a permit.
Right.
Well, don't they have to update those permits yearly? They
Well,
don't
it's
build
2
it.
years, it's good. Like, once you get it, you have 48 months. Sorry, 24 months. And then, it does have an extension for myself as the zoning administrator. If you have a legitimate reason, you can come in before the permit expires and say, hey, can I have another 6 months? So you could potentially have 2.5 years. And then after that, if you need to extend it in that 6 months, it's a super small fee to extend it and then. But, I mean, the penalty is no different than, to mow your lawn, to shovel your sidewalk. There's a fee and a penalty to doing
I
that.
guess mine was, I just thought it was for adding on to existing buildings. Or if you took something like in the end of the house and took something out and make a larger room, and support. I thought that was what it was for, not windows in a house, because that's already there, you're just replacing it. You're not
But again,
adding on.
If you understand though, that it is also about us knowing improvements that are being made. Because the whole basis for how you fund city government is the value of a property. And if you replace all your windows, the property is worth a lot more.
Okay, is it SWIPCO that says who can do it then?
Well,
Well, who's one guarantees that they're doing it right then?
because if it's a certain kind of project, then we have an inspection required, and then SWIPCO goes in and they meet with people, and they're helpful, they're not like a deterrent, they'll say like, hey, like we had a gentleman that was building a deck and he didn't have supports properly, it would be safe, like it could collapse.
Because it's building on to. Windows is already in your house,
But people believe that they can just do like a new, like if you're resurfacing a deck, then they think they shouldn't have to, but sometimes people are changing it, say you're putting a hot tub on your deck. It will collapse.
Right, no, that part.
If you're putting something above, like you just don't know, like, it's not meant to be penalizing to people, it's meant to make sure that their property is done safely.
Okay.
And most citizens do not know the code and would not have the ability to meet with a contractor and understand what's safe. So it's not just a money grab and to be difficult, it's to make sure that people have their.
How do you really ask to the citizens of Red what they need to know about permits?
I think that in most cases, what people need to understand is before you do a project, you call us. We cannot possibly teach everybody just on a surface level what to do. And people call me all the time. And I'll say, send me something, and then I'll look at it. Sometimes I can just answer like, no, you don't need it. If you just say you don't need one for a roof, are they changing some of it? Are they ripping it down? Is the wood rotten? Did people put it on correctly? Because our properties get damaged if a contractor doesn't do it correctly. So if you look at it as a protection of the public, like the people who are certified in the code are able to work for you for a small fee
Okay,
on your behalf.
as far as the roof, you don't have to have a permit for a roof unless they have to replace the. Well, I'm trying to think, the material the wood that goes on the roof.
Sheeting.
Trusses.
Sheeting, yeah. If you have a roof and you don't have to replace sheeting, you need a.
Most roofing contractors will come in and still get a permit. They know that, like
Okay,
that's common because again, people are spending $50,000 on roofs right now. It's outrageous. And so if you have a roof that's being disintegrated and has holes in it compared to a brand new roof, is your house worth more? Do you think that your house would sell for more if you had a brand new roof?
Yes, it would.
Because the value of the property, there's no other way for us to tell the assessor who acts on our behalf. So part of it is code and part of it is knowing the value of your property, because that's how we function in a world of property taxes.
And besides
So
that,
each month we send it to the assessor's office. I had a call today from Sharon, the assessor, and said, we have people coming in to look at the new townhomes, and there was some bit of information that she didn't have. and she needs it from us, because how else would anybody get that? And so, you know, replacing windows, doing a roof, you know, carpet's probably not changing the value.
Okay, it said if they don't charge more, would that stop them from not go ahead and doing it anyway, whether they know they have
I
to
would say so.
pay twice the amount?
I would say in most communities that you have a penalty, like some consequence, people take note of that and they don't wanna have to pay more. So they come in and make sure.
Well, the question's gotta become, how do we know what to double? I mean, that's the problem, is how do we charge for double? How do we come to that?
Cause that's what most communities do.
But but how do we know the price on, that's the question.
Well, because you just put that it's double. And so first you come in, you apply for your permit. I give you your permit fee and then it's double. So if it's a $50 fee,
That's where I think we're running into trouble, is like, we said, another neighboring city has it all labeled out of what it costs for each permit. And I think that's where Red Oak's running into trouble here.
Right, they don't have it.
We don't have a clear cut, concise one. So then when we put something here doubling building permit where we don't even know how much it is for a permit.
well, because even if you set those fees though,
That's
what
what,
they-
Well, it varies. It depends on what you're doing.
Right.
Your building permit.
but that's what I'm saying, I think we should have them, right?
I don't know how.
Which Lisa said, we're looking at.
Yeah, that's what we're
getting a
looking into.
structure.
And that's why-
For
that's
now,
why I
until
think-
we get that in place, you've gotta have something at least to deter people from just starting their project without a permit.
Okay, so now if we go to do that, will this line item, agenda item number 18 change ordinance? Then,
what do you mean by
or
that?
with the prices.
Whatever the fees are at any time, that's why you don't wanna say like, what's the double? You know, you wanna say, and obviously doing a whole house,
I think that's where we're getting the pushback from the citizens is there's not good information about what is and what is
Right.
not included in a
right?
necessity for a building permit.
Right,
But I think, again, like, even if we had a perfect list, like, still people call, like, I mean,
mhm,
Sure.
no matter
Sure.
what city, I've had easy lists. I've had like, everybody pretty much pays $100, $400 for a house, whether it's a tiny house or a big house.
So I guess if we move forward with this, can we make sure that we?
And I can prioritize the other one. I did ask John McCurdy, and I'll bring
I'm
that,
good with that.
I can even bring that by
I think
next meeting.
I think it's a must.
And what I wanna do is have for some of those basic things like a deck or windows,
right,
roof, like,
yes.
just have a set
Right,
And
fee.
that's the way it is on Clarinda's. It's very
Right.
clearly marked at the top of the.
But
page.
things like houses, garages, those are not gonna be a set fee, because the bigger it is, the more that the inspections are required.
Because we don't want to penalize citizens for trying to improve their property.
Correct,
right.
We want them to do it right, but we need to make it easy.
right. It's just such a serious consequence when people don't get a permit. So if you are willing, you know, again, this has still got one more reading after tonight, but if we can proceed with the second reading. And then I had already asked McCurdy at SWPCO to get me what his proposal is for the fees,
What I'm
so that it's
saying is,
simpler.
why do you think someone's gonna pay double if they didn't have a permit before? Why are they gonna pay you double?
Okay, well, Levi, I
What are they
think,
gonna,
Levi,
what are they gonna do if they don't pay the double then?
hey,
What
Levi,
the city can do?
I think you need to go in and talk and get all your questions answered and stuff. I would like to move on. I think that you have a lot of knowledge, so I'm making a motion.
This double.
I am making a motion that we do the second reading of this and approve it.
On the second reading.
Yes, and with Lisa bringing back those,
I
You want me to bring that back next meeting?
Just to put, or
Okay.
hey,
We
I
have a
made
motion.
I made a motion.
Anyway, there's a motion on the floor, so do we have a second?
And I will bring back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
New permits.
I'll second with them.
Okay. Motion and a second, roll call, please.
Cuppy,
Yes.
Hebring,
Yes,
Lester,
Yes,
Frank,
yes.
Bradley.
Yeah,
All right. Next, is the new ordinance here that would change the monthly billing for the sewer costs. Currently, we are doing an average.
Mhm.
And, we would look to see this done as a even charge across the board. As your usage is for water, so is your usage for sewer.
So this is the most common way that cities do it. The way that we do it now can penalize the city and it can also penalize the citizen. So it penalizes the city when people have leaks outside of the 3 months that we average. And it penalizes a citizen if they have a leak during the 3 months. And so it really needs to be based on facts. So if you have a leak, a really big leak in the middle of those 3 months, and you've well paid back what that leak would be over maybe a couple months, then for 9 more months, you continue to pay that penalty. So it's hard to deal with those people, because for them, it's not fair. And then for us, if there's a big leak on the other side of the 9 months, so we have a better chance, we have 3 times, if you're just looking at an even leak factor for 3 months, we have 9 months, that's to our disadvantage. So anybody that has a leak during those 9 months, we never catch up. We treat that water that goes down a toilet that's leaking. If you look at our fund balance, we have $1 million, which is an appropriate amount of fund balance in the water utility. And we are operating in the negative with regard to sewer. In working with Cassell, they have no real way for us to average. Like the guy that I talked to the other day said, I've been doing building for 25 years and I've never heard of anybody doing it like this. And so I would like to get this resolved before June 1. So the way that it was before, it was a February, March, April. You did the averaging for May for the June 1 bill. I think it's more equitable. If anyone has a leak, and obviously like there's an instant bill that's big, I do want you to understand that we could then, the way that you would deal with that is to be able to deal with those people on a payment plan. So if there's a blip on their radar and they have a big bill, whether it's the water side or sewer side, we can say, all right, you have to pay what you would normally pay, and then we'll give you a number of months to spread it out over that leak. And so you're still gonna work with people, but at least the city is going to be made whole over some amount of time. And if they can keep up, you can make those payment arrangements. But right now we're significantly in the hole and not keeping up because we really are not billing for the same amount. People do have an option to have a second meter. So if somebody has a pretty aggressive watering system, if you have an irrigation system, things like that, you can get a second meter. I know Tim was contacted by a resident who then contacted me yesterday, trying to explain it to him. In his mind, he doesn't think that they should have to pay for a second meter, but there is a cost to us providing a second meter. We provide a second bill, we have another read for it. And so if you do your plumbing to say that your irrigation system is inspected, we can see that what you're plumbing through the second meter is an irrigation system. Therefore, we know it's not going down the sewer. You're gonna pay that base fee, which right now for water is like $10.05. So it's gonna cost you $120 to have that second meter. And then you decide if you don't wanna pay for sewer, which sewer does cost more than water. So there's certainly a savings, but there should still be some reimbursement back to the city for having 2 at one house, various things like that. So I know that Clint and I have talked about this for the last year. He is as well supportive of it. And so I really think, again, this is very common.
Clint, did you have something?
Just so people understand too, we base our sewer use on pretty much the 3 lowest months of the year. So national average says 90% of all water that comes out of the faucet goes down the sewer. So what happens when we charge that, and then the big months, people start using water, our rates go up, what's going down that plant goes up, our costs go up and all that. We're hemorrhaging money down there like you can't believe because it costs so much to treat it. And there are people, I've had conversations with a handful of people that go away during those times of the year and just barely use water to get it down because they know that's what's going on. They take advantage of it. But national average says 90% of everything comes out of your faucet, it's gonna go down the drain and then it goes there. So, yes, sir.
They said, what water going down the sewer? Now, if you're using water your plants or your water tree.
That's where the separate
10%.
stuff is.
They're talking, they're gonna use that to say the water's going down the sewer, and it's not going down the sewer.
That's what the second meter is. The second meter, like if you've got a big garden or whatever, that will just be charged for water use. There'd be no sewer charge on that
How
meter.
many people do that though?
We have quite a few in the town.
But as I say, like, I don't use that much water for, watering the grass and trees.
Yeah.
But I'm being charged for that water that's not even going down the sewer. Why?
Well, a lot of that water is going down a storm sewer or it's going down your drain. Water ends up into
I
a
don't,
sewer.
I'm just saying the water that use on the outside of your house.
It's going into a storm sewer that we still have to maintain and do things too. 90% of everything that comes out of the tower
When it rains.
will go down a drain.
You were right, it's gonna go down.
So there is a
You don't-
10%.
When you water your lawn,
With that,
when you're watering your lawn, it goes down a drain.
We're saying that there's 10%, Levi, but right now, we're not even collecting 90%. If the national average is that 90% of the water, so people shower more in the summer because it's hot, they do, you know, like a lot
That's
more
going down the
things.
sewer though.
I understand, but there's no way,
my math on what's used and what we charge for, right there, we're charging for about 48% of the water that we put to a house. That's all we're charging.
so we're not
48%
collecting
of it,
enough.
and it should be on
My
that.
only question was that since it's not going down the sewer, it's not why they say sewer, it's sewer. Charge it to the sewer when it's not actually going down the sewer.
Cause they don't
But that's
have,
where that 10% comes in. They don't, when I'm talking, there's 10% that doesn't make it there, but you'd be surprised the water that you're watering your lawn on, there's a lot of old tiles that sit there that go to the creek.
The charge more could use more water, right? But it's not, some of it is going down the sewer, that's all I was saying.
Yep, there's gonna be,
There's an
on
amount.
national average, 10%, you know. I might have 98% of mine go down, you might have 70%, but the average is about 90 to 90.
Okay. The river, about there where the river road is, they don't have sewer. A lot of that doesn't have sewer at all. They just have septic tanks. Where they charge for sewer.
They're not,
They're not?
not if they're not connected to city sewer.
Okay. Thank you.
You have to be connected to a
Yeah,
sewer.
my question, I guess, I know whenever you use extra water, you're gonna get charged for it. Just when I said something about sewer, and you're using it on the outside, didn't know why you're gonna get charged whatever amount you have, but I didn't know whether they'd add that, they're adding that onto the sewers. Is that what you use for the outside too, then or what?
Well, there's no way to meter sewer.
I know,
So most communities will base it on the fact that it's based on water. And right now, the way we're doing it, we're not collecting enough money for the sewer. So since there's no way, if you're a high outside water user, you have the ability to get a second
right,
meter.
yeah, right.
And then you don't get charged for sewer. But you have to make an investment in getting a second.
You're right, we're just getting charged actually is for what water we use then, right?
You will be
It doesn't
charged
go
under
down the
this
sewer, no,
for both.
right? Well, most of it's going down the sewer, some of it did.
Well, I think this is a fair approach because people, I think this is a fair approach because we have been undercharging for forever. So I will make a recommendation to approve that
Your motion,
ordinance. And is it a
First
first reading?
first reading, approve the first reading.
So if we get this done in March, then we'll have enough time to switch it before the next average.
Okay.
And I will second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Hebrink,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Franks.
Yeah.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cuffy.
yes,
All right. Next is a resolution for selling the excessive dirt, and I feel like excessive is a mild
It's a
term
mild word.
for the dirt.
That's a lot of dirt
A
down there.
lot of dirt.
How big?
So we were working with one of the contractors that possibly like, the person that we were originally talking to did not get the bid for the bridge on L. But that would be an example of, you know, I just want to be able to sell it if it's a good price. You're saying it's okay. We're not saying to get rid of every bit of it. You know, I think there's some that's appropriate, but if we could sell some of it, they are trying to move to the cemetery. They actually started today, I think.
110 loads,
How much?
110 loads.
Got it. So they were taking from the
That's-
townhomes over to the cemetery. So this was coming from the cemetery, which is the better quality dirt, so Brad needs it there, so we're trying to get it away from that last townhome on the northwest
Plus
end of
we'll be
it.
getting more, right? If they continue with the townhomes.
Yeah, I mean, there could be
It'll-
more there,
It'll grow.
Could be, yeah, could also use some too.
Yeah.
Right in there, yeah.
Okay.
I think we've got enough to spare.
so this would just be kind of a blanket permission that at least you're not
Yeah.
opposed to it, I'll keep you informed if we find someone that's willing to buy it.
I would take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call, please.
Lester,
Yes.
Franks,
No,
Bradley,
Yes.
Cuffy,
Yes,
Hebrink.
Yes.
Okay, reports. Lisa.
So if everybody can find time on Thursday, the ISU kids are gonna be here talking about floodplains. You know, we're hoping that people will come that live there. The 5 gentlemen from the class came down last week and did some door drops. We made 700 flyers. So they'll be giving them out at the grocery stores today and tomorrow. Like I said, they probably delivered about 400 or 500 of them in the floodplain neighborhoods. If you can come, it is not a formal presentation. It'll be a stop in. So anytime between 6 and 8. I know Aaron interviewed 2 of the students last week, and then you aired it today. So we appreciate that coverage. And we'll have it on Facebook again. And then if you've seen, there's been some yard signs. I think we printed about 20 yard signs to put around town. So it would just be helpful for the kids. Obviously, they're all urban planning students, and we also want them to have a good experience. Janice donated that for people that come, we'll be giving away some movie tickets. If people want to put their name in, and then we'll have some pizzas for people just to kind of snack on and stuff. So you can come to the Agora, or you can come to the Y. They're at the same time this Thursday, 6 to 9. The kids will be staying out at Riverbend at the bed and breakfast out there. So that's where they'll be staying. And then I think they're gonna meet with the historical preservation group on Friday morning. And then they'll be kind of debating. They were supposed to come back next week as well, but they may delay that part, so. So they'll be there. Already explained the setup. We are starting to see success in that program. We also received news yesterday. I had applied for a grant. It's called a street safety grant for small towns. So to be eligible to apply, you have to be a community of under 10,000 in population. And they didn't tell us what the value of the equipment is, but basically if you were selected as one of the 10 communities that were funded, you get a bunch of street equipment that's for safety. So there's like road closed ahead, 1-lane traffic, what they call looper cones, the really tall skinny cones, regular cones, safety vests, class 3 barricades. There were 160 communities that applied, and we were one of the successful communities. So they will be coming in April. I think they bring a trailer full of the stuff and present it to the street department and utilities. And so we'll see if we can get a couple of you there. I think they're coming April 13th, but you know, just all those little things help us in our, you know, street budgets to not have to spend those and make sure that we're properly putting out signage when the guys are in the right of way, whether they're working on utility stuff or just street repairs. So we were happy. I was surprised that it was 160 applicants, so
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
Yes, thank you.
it's exciting.
Okay, next we have a budget presentation.
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break if anybody needs.
Anybody, if you want to head out, we understand.
And then we'll have there's 4 department heads here today.
That's no guy, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I meant everybody but.
Nice try, nice try.
You're welcome to scoot
We're
on.
drawing straws to see who goes first.
You live this close to like you're a big girl.
I don't.
Nope, I'm not leaving. I need a pen. The door.
We're still recording.
Yeah, we're slowly breaking.
Just pause, the camera, just so we're not recording the whole 5-minute break.
The stupid thing expired and it won't stop until I change it.
Maybe you should be more responsive.
So I was thinking about it.
Being recorded on.
All right, we are back. Budget presentations, you going to order of listed or do you gonna take them out there?
Sure. Adam, you're first.
Okay, you want me up to the?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I mean, going through this, looking at it a little bit, I mean, for the most part, I'll keep it try as simple as I can.
Hold on one second. So the operating budget is on page 8. Is parks and pool, my handwritten 8. I tried every corner of the, putting in type page number. Well, it was all part of, it was all mixed in the budget numbers.
Maximize the margins on this.
Yeah, well, this is already so little.
I'm starting at 9:43, so.
Gotcha.
For the most part, mine has really stayed the same. We don't really go crazy every year. We do have some secondary, funding as far as lost and, some of that to help offset some of our costs. But for the most part, the insurance was the one that really kind of got us again this year. Salaries is the one that always goes up. As far as the park side, pool, the same thing. Pool, the big one is salaries. So that's, and Lisa and I have talked about it, you know, with the way our pool sits, you know, Georgiana, I talked to Georgiana, we do as much as we can that if we don't need to staff the entire thing, or if we have less people, we'll take people and send them home just to get that number down a little bit. But for the most part, that's really the biggest two of the salaries and insurance for both of those. So I guess questions, concerns.
Remember that we, out of the park maintenance budget, which is line 960. You'll see that that went down. So that $14,000 is that we're gonna pay for the mower out of the bond proceed leftover money, since that's a eligible expense out of there. So while it doesn't show there, it would still be technically, we'd be getting a new mower.
And you're good on mowers and everything.
Yep, so that would be, so that the mower that we would be replacing, that I just looked at the other day, it's got like 2,000 hours. It's the last of the ones that haven't been replaced. We have two newer ones that are under 600 hours each, so those are fairly new at this point, so. Yeah, we're good to go on mowers at this point, so it's just a replacement one.
Any questions for,
Anything else?
we did,
Keep it simple, so.
Thanks, Adam.
pool passes, we,
We raised, single day admissions did go up $1. We have been, since we'd opened, so we're going on a few years now that we haven't raised that price for, it was at $5. We're going up to $6. Individual passes, season passes, family passes, all those stayed the same price. Just our daily admission price went up to $6.
That's good.
So,
And your pool manager
That's still
just does wonderful there.
correct, yep.
She
She
brings
is
in more.
officially hired.
She's officially hired. We got her on the books for this year, and yeah, she is one of a kind.
She is,
Yes.
Keep her at all costs, protect her.
yeah.
So we'll be advertising starting this week for summer help, if you know, kids that want to be pool or people that
Parks,
want to mow,
cemeteries, yep,
you know.
all the good stuff. We'll start hiring, so.
And 18 for parks and cemetery.
To work, yes, I believe that's what it is.
We also have pool parties, I think. Do we up that?
We have that last year. I don't think we have that this year.
Okay.
So,
Does that mean they can actually get the whole pool by themselves?
Yes.
Do we do anything like?
yep, so they're,
Four.
yep, so we have time set aside after, that they can rent it, or, you know, Georgiana's done a really good job of communicating with people that, hey, that's not within your price range. You can come during open pool hours and we'll kind of, you know, accommodate you and as best we can with a pool party that, you know, you don't want to rent the pool if you have 15 people, you know, sometimes if you could, if you want to, you can, but you know, 10 to 15 people, she's like, hey, we'll accommodate you, we'll make sure you have an area and we have a, you know, an area cordoned off for you, so.
Have we ever looked at working with the lion, like trying to get like, water aerobics out there? No, charging a fee?
We have in the past, we haven't done it lately. I know we could going forward a little bit, maybe, you know, reapproach that at some
Morning
point.
or evening, that I know Courtney does it.
Yep.
Have a nice group that comes in.
I think the challenge would be with the Ys, they don't have very many instructors.
Oh, good.
I mean, if that was gonna be a partnership, but. I'm not there anymore, so I don't know. I'm glad that I knew. They didn't have to.
I know Georgina, she has really pushed the lessons in the morning, the little kids' lessons, the toddler time, that sort of thing. But yeah, if we could, find a time in that evening area, if there's not something going on, so.
That's shutting down and
Mhm.
getting everybody out.
Yeah, try to utilize it as best we can. It's one of those things where you want to keep it open as much as possible.
Generate the revenue.
Sure.
Okay, yep, thanks, Adam.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Airport. Kevin.
Good evening. I think you all know me, but for the people at home, I'm Kevin McGrew. I'm the airport manager. I'm gonna start off with the good news. My budget request this year is 25,000 less than last year.
Whoa.
But to be honest, most of that comes out of my required fuel purchases. Last year, we allocated enough money to buy more fuel than we actually used, so we didn't use it. So this year we lowered that down. So
Nice.
This is again, page 8, line 892.
Right above us. Yep, right near the top.
So some things to bring up, line 898, you'll see, grounds, we raised that to allow for some fertilizer, which ground was frozen when they tried to do it the first time, so we haven't sampled yet, so we don't know how much, if any, we're gonna fertilize this year, so. And that would be for the hay ground. Equipment and repairs went up a little bit. We lowered the fuel down. You'll see on 911, under runway and bacon maintenance, you see a clear over to the next to the last column, 80,050. Well, that's to repair our AWAS station that got hit by lightning in July. And, all of that, but maybe 2,500 is gonna be reimbursed by the insurance that the city covers, so.
That's really
Don't
good.
freak out when you see 80,000. As far as the repair, last I was told, and I'm having a hard time getting an update, it should be repaired, in February. But, the manager's been, out of the country, but was back today, but didn't return my call, so hopefully this month. We had a couple doors, damaged, wind got one of them in the spring, but other than that, pretty much in line, a few increases on some things.
Okay.
Any questions?
Well, I do. Are we gonna make sure we have contracts in place for?
I'm sure we will, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I hear you're retiring.
Yes. Yes. Well, my official date is April 3rd, but I will stay longer if needed, but, I've enjoyed working with you all. I enjoy my job, but, I'm getting older and, moving to a different location
Oh, yeah.
and, got a lot of things to do to 2 properties.
Well, you've done a good job. Thank you, Hunt.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Kevin.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So even though you have the 80,000 on the expense side, then I also am showing revenue. At that
Yeah.
78,000 to balance out the
Yeah.
end of the current year, so.
Okay.
Yep.
And what we talked about with Kevin and I today is I'm estimating less fuel sales based on the current year.
Okay.
Also, then, of course, you have to flip to decreasing the revenue side of it. So we make a little bit off of fuel sales, it's somewhere between 10 and 20,000. We're not charging astronomically more than what we pay for the fuel. But those kind of go together. So obviously, if we got to the point where you were at the end of the year and we hadn't budgeted enough, we're not gonna stop buying fuel because again, if you buy the fuel, you're also gonna increase your revenue. So I try to keep those as one goes up, the other goes up, as one goes down, the other goes down. So if you look on the revenue on page 1, you would see that that's also decreased, so. Thanks, Kevin.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Kevin. Kathy,
And he's also on page
also
8.
on page 8. How about that?
Wow.
It's the page 8 department.
Yes.
Department, I'm just gonna start out, I guess that's just one of my favorite things to do is to say thank you. I think I've probably just had one of the best years I've had in all the years I've been. With the city, cooperation's been wonderful, the funding, has been something we're extremely grateful for. We have just literally enjoyed working which is a wonderful thing to have happen. Just an update too for us, we have so many programs coming at us. One of them's like a radon information program that we can hold for people. We just filed our E-rate, which takes an 80% discount off of our internet. So even though it's not a revenue, it's still a cutting to a cost. So we're always doing those kinds of things. Our Carnegie, I don't know how many of you have told this, but surveys and libraries go hand in hand, and every couple days we get a survey. And we got a survey from the Carnegie Corporation Foundation, and they wanted to know if we were still in our building and still using the library. And I looked at that and I thought, oh, I mean, I worked with Carnegie so much on the project, but they weren't funding when we were trying to do our renovation. But I worked and said, is there any way? And they're like, sorry, nothing we can do. And here comes this survey. So I fill out the survey, and about a week later, the phone rings and I go, you know, filling out the survey is a really good idea, because anybody that filled out the survey would get this $10,000 gift from the foundation. So in some of the revenues and expenses you see coming and going, that money came to us in January, and we have like the year that we've planned to do something every single month to help support what their plan was as well, and letting people understand the original gift of giving libraries to so many places. So just letting you know, some of our funds are coming and going in many different ways, but I wanted to let you know that the teamwork with the city, it's been an honor for us to come and help with the city. We have got more help from the city than I've ever seen before. So I'll just go, it goes back and forth. By the funding that you increased in our part-time has allowed us to have people at the library while we do citywide cleanups. It's allowed us to have people at the library while we help do other projects within the other departments or within the city. So just letting you know how grateful we are for that and what it means to us. And in evaluations, all of my staff were very proud of being able to help with the city. That meant a lot to them as workers. So that was just a great thing. I did run some numbers today. Right now, we do receive additional funding. A family might come in and say that they want to leave a memorial, and they, you know, maybe they want books, maybe they want, you know, a clock. I mean, but those funds are coming and going as well, but they're coming through our memorial and sinking fund. But those are funded through gifts that go into those funds. Grants will go in there, those kinds of things. Then you get down to the regular budget, but this year, just so far, we've spent, it looks like about 20,000 through the gift funds. So that helps supplement what we do, which is the most wonderful thing that people do. Our project, the community was like $2 million. And when I say community, I'm talking about county, I'm talking about city, I'm talking about state, I'm talking about people all over the US that said, let's make this happen, like a renovation, which was all new, everything basically in that building, other than the structure. We did have a permit, just letting you know that.
Oh, good job.
We got a permit, we got one. So quickly going through the budget, this is a meeting, I throw out ideas. Our board looks at everything and tries to go just as precise and as understanding with things. There were only a couple of places that they really wanted to raise. Building maintenance, we do need to do a few things with our sump pumps. Some of the other things with our furnaces, we just put an inducer in. That was, you know, an eye opener, but it was cheaper than a new furnace. So we were happy about that. We went up a little bit on the insurance because obviously the insurance is going up. A little bit more on the technology because we're going to be adding some new technology, like new equipment to the building. And so it takes a little bit more of our IT time to get that put into play. But we've never been able to do the things we've been allowed to do the last couple of years. It makes going to work really quite enjoyable to get to offer what we offer. Had a gentleman walk in the other day and he said to me, I'm going to an interview. They've told me I'm pretty good to go, but I can't apply without a resume. I do not know how to do a resume. Will you help me do a resume? He was so thankful when he walked out the door because he's like, this piece of paper means I get my job. And out the door he went. We have that all day long. And I love, people call me and they're like, do you do classes? And I'm like, just come down. It's easier to help them with what they need, when they need it, than the classes. But we are, with the Carnegie money, just to let you know, we will be offering tech classes. We're offering and launching all kinds of new things with that 10,000 and doing some things to the grounds to make it safer and make it more welcoming, to make the town a little brighter. So, you know, we've got some fun stuff planned. We've got some very sensible people needs. We're constantly asking people, what do you need? Please let us help. And so I get to see that. And that's kind of the cool thing of what we do. But any questions about when you're looking at that, I'll just throw this in here. On wages, for those of you that know my family or anything about my family, we had one family member that was pretty ill. And so there was talk about whether or not I would have to retire. That person has passed. And so we had built into the budget a little bit of training money in the salary line item for this year. I didn't have to leave, didn't need the training money. We haven't spent as much of our budget. I had one of my part-time people in surgery several times this year. So a lot of money will be rolling back to the general fund this year. I would prefer, rather than to spend it, to send it back again and plan for what we will do with the next year. But when you're looking at wages, that's why we do not need as much this year in the wage line item. And so when you see those numbers, I did go to Lisa and said, would it be okay to, what we don't use this year, can we turn them back over for something else? So,
Awesome.
when we can cut costs,
Yeah, it's amazing, actually.
you know, any way we can do that. We try to budget so that we don't go under, but if it's not needed,
Right.
I'm sure there's other uses that we can do too.
I'd just like to say, Kathy, that you have some amazing help down there and everybody is, when you go in and ask you anything, they're so helpful and, you know, you don't get that in the big city. And I think it's really important that as a small library, you're really doing a great job and thank you for that.
It's shocking how many people come from all over to use our library.
That's cool.
It's just
Awesome.
awesome. We go home tired, but happy.
Thanks, Kelly.
And thank you for all you've done for us.
But for Clint's budget, we'll start with water and sewer. It's on page 15 for expenses.
What page?
15 for expenses.
I'll be kind of brief on this too. I talked to Lisa real quick about it. We really didn't look to do any major changes, just kind of do, status quo. Water right now is looking pretty good for this year, and we think keeping that status quo, we're gonna come through wastewater. I mean, it's just, as we know, for the next couple of years, so we get a new plant there, it's just, we're crossing our fingers and stuff doesn't happen, like pumps go out that you just have to fix, but, we are, and I hate to use the term, but we are band-aiding things at the wastewater plant that are going away. So instead of spending thousands of dollars on stuff, if there's a way to bypass it for a couple of years, and work it, we're doing that. Really, we're coming through pretty good on the sewer side, even with the shortfall of money we have. And that's attributed to all the guys down there. I mean, the guys, the boots on the ground, they're doing a lot. They're using their head, the training they've done on themselves, just understanding the process and working hard down there, making things work that just normally isn't what's asked of people, but we ask it of them and they haven't hindered at all. So, I mean, all those guys really need a round of applause from people. When you see them, please thank them for what they do, because they do a lot of thankless things out there, and they're in situations that most people don't want to be in. So, and it's those guys that, make our departments look good. It's all those guys down there. So I just wanted to say that, but yeah, we're trying to go status quo with things. We're probably gonna go a little over in sewer this year, just because, the freeze event that we had, there's some costs that we're gonna have on top of that. Insurance is gonna cover a lot, but there's parts of it that they're not gonna cover. We just had, we're in sludge pump, go completely out. That was something that will be reutilized in the new process. So yes, we had to spend the money for it, but it's not wasted money because it will go into the new plant. And so they've got that information in the design phase, knowing that's there. It's the new style. So they're gonna re-up the next pump to mirror that one. So we have things that work in unison. So you guys have any major questions about water sewer?
Credit cards.
Yeah, that's on your side of it.
For those of you that are newer to the council, one of the decisions that the council made last year I believe in May, was to no longer cover the cost of people paying with credit cards.
Right.
Our last full year that we did that, it was an expense of $50,000 to the utilities,
Wow.
25,000 each. It was split half and half.
Wow.
We still have a lot of people that come in and still use their cards. That fee is then assigned to the customers. There are some people that change to cash and checks. Personal choice, but it's great that we can then spend that $50,000 on infrastructure and improvements in the actual utility instead of.
Yeah, I
just
take
credit
the credit
card.
for that. That was all her. She did it. I'm not taking credit for
Well,
that. So-
actually, that's.
It was the council, but yeah.
Council, you guys, that's everybody in front of me, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oakwood,
Oakwood, that should still be coming in this spring here shortly, so,
water main.
yep, the outer water main, so I talked to the engineer 2 weeks ago, everything still looks like on track for April is the start date for that, is everything was something weird happened, so that's still, you know, that money keeps floating in the budget to pay for it, so, so it's still sitting there, but that should be done, they figured out how to get it done, so.
And that's in a separate fund.
Yep.
That was bid out last year. If you remember, we bid it with some flexibility so that they could do it this summer instead of last summer. That, I think we have around 150,000 and that is on. Let's see here, at the bottom of page 14, you can see $20,000 for engineering and then 150 for the project, the last two lines on page 14. So that's that project underwater.
And I think that's still looking like 124 to 134, so they're
Right.
expecting it to come in at, but good.
Sewer has a, called an SRF loan, the state revolving fund, that's a sewer payment, and then like I said, there is some money that was never paid for from water and sewer, that was from the 2018 bonds that are already paid off, so I'm working with Chip, our financial advisor, to kind of determine what that amount is, and even if we just get a little bit at a time, I think that's the right thing to do for debt, but we'll try to factor it in, or if we have to wait for sewer to kind of catch up, we'll delay theirs, but I want to have that number out there. And some of the in-between years, people weren't, I think, aware at budget time that needed to be transferred. Do you want to do street together?
Sure.
So street is funded mainly by road use, that's on page 11. Starting at the very top, funds that start with a 110. Not a whole lot of changes there either.
Nope.
I do, you know, we have a pretty healthy fund balance there. I do think, if remember, one of our strategic plans was to maybe do sidewalk replacement and create an assessment program where instead of, you know, we could mark certain sidewalks, be able to say that to get the best price, we could contract it out and have some of that paid for together. And then you would say, depending on the amount, that we would assess it back. So for the first year, we'd have to take money, let's say out of reserves to do it. And then it would start to kind of be a revolving loan fund in a way, so that the first year you're spending it and then people have to pay it according to our ordinance. But we could say, you know, if it's a higher amount for your sidewalks, you have a couple years to pay it back. And then if they don't pay that bill, then it gets put on their tax bill. So I think I'd like to see us think about that. I was walking myself in the last couple of days and I'm like, wowzers, there's some sidewalks that,
There's some really bad ones.
Yes, there is.
so.
We got a couple on city lots too that need to get replaced to,
Right.
we have the manpower and the people down there, they're anxious and willing, we can go get them and stuff like that. So I mean, it's things like that, just mark them, let us know. The guys are really willing to go get some stuff done, so.
And I think that'll be one of our advantages as well, is that, you know, with the crew that we have now, I think we'll be able to do some of that in-house. You know, we may not want to tackle a large sidewalk project. You know, we'll see, but I do think that needs to be one of our priorities, and we did, you know, together discuss that, but I'd like to bring that forward, make sure that our assessing ordinance is solid, so I'll be working with Bree on that, and then typically what you would do is have like a public hearing where you'd mark sidewalks that you're saying are the ones that have to get replaced. People get invited to a hearing. They're told what our estimate is, you know, we'll come up with a policy on how long we want to give people to pay it back, if it's a higher amount versus a lower amount. And then look at like I said, having a special assessment program that if they can't pay it all at once, that they can.
What about some of our street signs?
Yep, I actually was talking to Clint about that over the weekend.
The boys have got a huge list going right now. We went to the inventory we had. They've gone out and replaced as many as we had in inventory right now. They're working a huge list right now. We're putting a list together to get a lot of them ordered. So the plan is to get as many of them as done as we can. So.
So we had 6,000.
Yep.
We had 6,000 budgeted this year and we've only spent 1,000.
Yep.
So again, our philosophy as a staff is not to just spend stuff because it's there, but I think that's a necessary thing. So if it's, you know, stop signs that are faded, speed limit signs, there's,
Used to get a grant to do signs.
yeah, I don't think.
I know Evan and Brian spent 2 full days out replacing the signs that we had in inventory already. So,
Oh, good.
what we really have left in inventory now is still stuff that could be used later, but those signs are good. And then they're working a big list on what we need to order and get going. So, it's a work in progress, of course, but,
Thank you.
those guys have gotten going really well. So.
Great.
If you look at revenues, so road use revenues would be on page 2. Not at the bottom, second to the bottom chunk there. Page 2, second to the bottom chunk, again, you're looking at like lines 225. So that's where road use is. So just so everybody kind of understands, we bring in about $800,000. And that's basically how we're funding street salaries and any sort of street repair or street equipment that we do. And then if you go to page 6 and page 6, that's where you'll see the water revenues and sewer revenues. Right now, I don't know, you know, when we make this adjustment, I don't know what that is, you know, gonna look like if we do the 3 readings with the sewer. So I'm not really estimating it to be higher, but obviously it will be higher. So we'll look at that, but those are you can see 1.2 million is what we estimate for water. 1.1 million for sewer. So again, when you think about the fact that our rates are actually higher, but we get less revenue in sewer, that's sort of showing you that sort of gap. Any other questions for Clint?
No. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to go a couple of things. So, so the general fund, of course, is everything non-enterprise funds. So water, sewer, storm, recycling, garbage, all that kind of stuff is separate. But just to kind of give you where the budget is balanced at, if you look on the middle of page 1 after the large chunk on line 74, that'll show you that the operating budget for the general fund is 4.2 million. Okay. And then if you go to the expenses of the general fund, kind of keep your finger on that and then go to page 9 near the bottom. And if you put those 2 numbers next to each other, you'll see the same number, the 4.2687.
Good job.
Okay, so that's balanced. That's how you know that what's coming in and how I'm showing the revenues. So what I want to show you is back to page 1, the number that's right above the 4.2 million, you'll see that $848,000.
Right.
Okay, now go to the very last page. So I've kind of explained to you that in the past, the city did not use lost money to help fund the general fund, right? Like they were putting it in places, they were sending debt money to the debt service fund, whether it was needed or not. What I feel good about with this budget, first of all, the required tax rate, remember that I told you that it was $20.90 last year. This is coming in around $20.65. So you'll actually be lowering the rate per 1,000 by 25 cents, which I think is something that, you know, you'll all obviously be able to support. And when I talked about, I've showed you what the fund balances are like in loss. So there's a pretty good savings, but what I was trying to do was balance the budget with current year's revenues. So what you can't live off of is if you're taking money to balance it this year with money from savings. That's not happening. So even though we're readjusting how we spend lost money, it is still legitimately this year's money between the franchise fees and lost that's coming in to balance the budget, and therefore the revenues that were from past years and what we'll call surplus or savings is not what's being used to balance this. And I think that's super important. Like I had kind of said last time, as I was still sort of working through it, you know, my goal is to try and collect more money that's been owed and delinquent, and being more aggressive about, you know, if we can get this GMT money after this year, which the chief just sent me that money was reallocated again for 2 more years. So I am hopeful that we can start getting that money July 1 of 27. So unfortunately, we can't do it for this year that we're doing right now. But I think if we, you know, if we're partnering with the other communities, if they're helping to pay, all those things will help with the budget. But I do want you to know that even with the decrease of that quarter in the tax rate, that we're not using surplus funds. And I think, you know, Terry, that was, you know, something that you and I talked about when you were running for office. And I want you to know that while it's a change in the way we spend the money, we're not spending past years to fund this year. And I think that's super important. So I wanted to show you those balances. And then again, if you look at the revenue for like RUT, basically we are, you know, spending the amount that we're bringing in this year. There's again, a healthy balance there, but we're trying to say that this year's budget is spent with this year's revenue.
Very good.
So I feel like we're in a good place. I think that we should probably have a short meeting next Monday again, just to kind of give you a chance to look at all of this, see if you have any questions. I'd like to vote at that meeting on what we're gonna put in the ad that goes to the county, so then we don't have to wait until the meeting on March 2nd. That'll help me be able to get it in the portal, get it out to Jill's office at the auditor. So remember that goes out. So kind of those next steps, we would be, and I think all we'll really have to vote on for the March 5th is what the levy looks like. And so I'll bring you those numbers. But again, it is a decrease from last year. The other really thing that I think is important, and we talk about debt, is that our debt payments, let's look at that. So Fund 200. So you'll be in a, and by the way, the pink, when the pink is on the left, you're looking at expenses. When it's green, it's revenues. So look on page 13. And you can see, on the lines starting with 1536, that chunk right there at the bottom third of the page is all of our debt. So you can see that 2012 is the second little chunk of pink there. That's right above the 2 pink cells. You can see that debt started, ended 2 years ago, that was no longer paid. And then the big one that's now fallen off is 2018, which is lines 1571. So that 2018 is done. And so that's the one where I still think that water and sewer have a little bit of that, but we were using lost money for that. And so that's again where we can use some of that lost money. So when you look at the total, if you look at column K, you can see that last year our debt service budget was 938,000. So that's the column just to the right of the yellowish one. You can see that we paid 938,000. This coming year, we're only scheduled to pay 794. So even with the townhomes project, that we are paying off debt and that we are spending less money on debt. And I think those are, you know, as you speak to the public, we're doing what we can to live within our means. You know, that we do have less debt that we're paying off this coming year. And that even with all of that, that we are, you know, cognizant of our tax rate and that we are lowering it by 25 cents. So to me, those are kind of the big messages that I think for you, you know, to be able to talk about, and we'll talk about that tomorrow, like on the radio and with Aaron and stuff. So, you know, I think that there's a lot to be said for the staff and, you know, trying to put these things together, obviously having a little bit of that bond money to pay some of those things, you know, helped on some of those, but we still are prioritizing, you know, having the ability to bring in a new person, you know, that's split between cemetery and nuisance in this budget. You know, we haven't cut positions, but we're living within our means. And I think, you know, for all of you, that's always my goal, to try and present something to you that's balanced, obviously, and important to do as much as we can for the taxpayers, recognizing that we still have a business to run. So if everybody's cool, let's plan on a short meeting next week.
Okay.
Plan on voting on, I'll send you the levy worksheet. That'll be what we have to give to the county. And then we can have it again, you know, we'll have our regular 2 meetings in March. I think that the county is required to send out the notice like March 20th. So you have to have your first public hearing like near the end of March. Then we have, you know, a little bit more time to work on the budget if you need to in April, and then of course, everything has to be approved. Since we're ahead of the game, we'll try to do all those things at regular meetings. You know, maybe we can do like
That'd be
the
good.
first meeting in April, and the second meeting, and not have to have this special.
That'd be nice. We've always had to have special meetings in the past, so it'd be really nice to have those at just the regular meetings.
So,
Yep. Okay,
so,
Great job.
you know,
thank you.
appreciate the staff and everybody
great
working
job.
on it, and then, you know, I hope you know again that sometimes there's money in there, but we do everything that we can if we don't have to spend it, that we're not spending it. You know, I think people think government is, oh, you've got that money, so you know, you're gonna spend it. That's not how this crew is, and I appreciate them.
Yep. Awesome.
So that's all we have for tonight.
Okay. We got our next meeting dates coming up, just as discussed. Items for the next agenda, we'll have some additional readings of those ordinances. But otherwise, we got anything else, Lisa? All right, we're adjourned.